Hi, good morning. I'm the Reverend Dr. William L. Johnson III. I am a chaplain here at Christian Hospital Northeast in St. Louis, Missouri, and we're here to share with you our morning meditation as we have tried to coin. This is the meditation of the day from the Reverend Dr. J. It still feels awkward to say it, but I'm trying to be cool. So bear with me. Send me a note. Tell me if you like that. If it sounds corny, it's okay. I think it does as well. I want to share with you really in a rather important moment to say to you, thank you so much for all of you who have taken time to listen to these messages. And I hope that you can share them with friends and loved ones, no matter where you are, whether you're in the hospital or in the parish or in your community or with your family. Thank you so much for your support. Keep it coming. We're going to try to do these things as often as we can to share messages of encouragement and inspiration to you and to your families and to your friends because they mean that much to us. Uh, we have discovered that every now and then, a little word of encouragement along the way goes a long, long way. And we want to invite you to do that. Gift other people with words of encouragement. You may not know all the words to say to them at their moment of need, but you never know when that person is at the brink of a transformation or a transforming moment in which they need to hear words of encouragement. So find a way to compliment them, share some gifting of encouragement from at least reminding them that someone cares about them. And so we do that today. Well, today's meditation, we've entitled The Wonder Years. I know it is a wonderful title. It reminds me, and yes, I confess, it is inspired by the television show that is often I like it, one of my favorite, The Wonder Years, with Ted Savage as the old Wonder Years, or the new one that has presented itself in regular evening television on Wednesday nights. Not a plug, shameless plug, but I like the idea. But the concept of the Wonder Years, and I wrote myself some notes just to think about it as I share with you, is a reminder to us that it offers a benign glimpse for us of our past and of many people in their past. For that show, it reminds us of the way life used to be. And it gives a look back, a kind of recollection, a remembering of the journey from which one has taken in their lives. And so it is good to go back and look back, even if those moments were not necessarily happy moments. In fact, some of them were very sad moments. And one of the things I love about a show like that on television, it chronicles where the thoughts of history come from, what happens in the world, what has happened in the nation in the past, what has happened in our own lives, in our own families. And often in this season, in our current condition, our current living moments, if you will, we have found it very difficult to be historical. In fact, everything about the challenges of our life now push us or try to urge us or insist that we become ahistorical, a people who don't have memory, a people who don't recall the history lessons of the past, and not simply the ones that we've learned in school, but the ones in which we have lived for ourselves. In fact, it calls us to forget about what our own eyes have seen, or what our own ears have heard, or what our own hearts have felt about the experiences we've had in life, and encourages us to forget those things and to trust something else that we do not know. Well, I want to share with you why I think it's important to take a moment to reflect on your own wonder years. And the wonder years are not always good. It is not a moment of reminiscing, it is a moment of remembering. Most of us don't realize that there is a difference between reminiscing and remembering. To reminisce means that we selectively pull from our past moments that make us feel good and give us kind of the warm and fuzzies. Remembering, however, is to take all of the moments of our lives and realize that every moment, whether we consider them good or bad, were lessons for us for our now and for our future life. And so I'm inviting us to remember the wonder years, the years in which we had turned to wonder how we made it over, how we got through, how we survived it. And here we are at this stage in our lives. It's good to have a moment to capture what we felt like in those moments. I have several of those. When I was 5 years old, I was in a house fire in which we lost everything, but I survived. And that experience took place 2 weeks before Christmas time. And there in the midst of those moments, when I reflect back, painful as it was, I am thankful now that somehow after all of these years, we've survived to live, to enjoy, to love, to have children, to raise them, to see them make decisions on their own, and to go off to college, to be able to enjoy what life has in store. And because of those moments, if I had not taken a moment to reflect or to remember, then I would have long forgotten the great things that comes with that special gift of recalling. So we recall the wonder years. There is a passage of scripture, I think, that is important for me. It's one of my favorites. It's from the writer of Proverbs, and it doesn't speak to history. It doesn't speak to remembering, but it speaks to trusting. And it says this, Proverbs 3 and I think 5 and 6, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not to your own understanding, but in all your ways acknowledge God, and God will direct your path. Trust in God with all your heart and lean not to your own understanding, and in all your ways acknowledge God, and God will direct your path. It has been true that the wonder of our years have been balanced by a certain amount of grace, no matter how difficult things have been. And again, I'm not supporting or giving the idea that the years of our lives have been all good or roses or wonderful or magnificent. Many of us have not lived that reality, and that is true. But I would dare say that if we take a closer look, we will discover a certain amount of grace that has covered us and brought us to the place where we are. Now, whether we think where we are is a good place or where it's where we should be, we often ought to remind ourselves what the journey really was like, and to give ourselves some rewards or to encourage ourselves that there's nobody quite like you. And the fact that you survived what you have experienced and that you have come through so much is a testament to not only to you, but also to the God who carries you, and yes, to ancestors that came before you who poured into you words of wisdom to encourage you along the way. This particular passage of scripture was one that reminded me of what ancestors, fathers and mothers, grandmothers and grandfathers, aunts and uncles, and those who came before me had to say about my life. Trust in the Lord with all of your heart, they would say. And don't lean to your own understanding. You're not smart enough, wise enough to know all the things that creation has in store. But in all your ways, acknowledge God, and God will direct your path. That was what I learned from those who were sainted members of my church that when I grew up here in St. Louis. From words of wisdom to my young mother then, and now my mother, who is still young. Remember, tell her I said that. She's still young, who still gives words of wisdom. Wisdom is that in which we have learned when we discover that we trust God with our lives. We don't trust the circumstances around us. We have learned to evolve and to come to some other place where our thought process is a little bit different. In fact, if I lean to my own understanding, what I thought was important 30 years ago, it is not so important now. But to trust God with all my heart and to lean not to my own understanding, but in all of my ways to acknowledge God and to know that God will direct the path means that I don't know the path, but God does. I don't know the twists and turns that the road will bring. I don't know what tragedies may befall us ahead. I don't know what tears I'll have to shed. And I don't know really what weight I can carry. But what I do know and what I trust is that God will be with us every step of the way. That's the miracle, the wonder years. When I look back over my life in reflection, I'm grateful for the wonder years. From my first high school dance, from the moment when my mother left St. Louis and we went through the process of what I experienced as a separation from my father. For 2 years living in Louisville, Kentucky, to returning back to St. Louis, to go to school and be in a different environment, no longer in the place where I used to be, to discover that all through that, through being afraid as I went to school, through my high school years and voluntary desegregation in the St. Louis school system, and then to discover that God carried me through college and through graduate school, all of that, even now, is important to trust God with all my heart. I know it seems like, hey, we should get to the place where we can relax a little bit and not have to trust God with all of our hearts and to lean not to our own understanding. But if I've learned anything with gray hair and a bald head now, it is that in the midst of our continuing to live, no matter how mature I think I am, I still have a lot to learn. And that is the wonder of it all. You know, there was a little boy. When I was growing up, he was years ahead of me for sure, who had these wonderful gifts. He had the ability to play music by ear, and he could create these beautiful sounds. He could sing, he could play the drums. All of these things he had the ability to do. But one thing he didn't have is the gift of sight. Yes, his name was Stevie and still is Stevie Wonder. They called him Stevie Wonder because he had the ability to do things that no one imagined he would ever be able to do. Those years when Stevie played and sang and created music on his own and shocked the world, if you will, Stevie gave us the gift to be reminded that there's nothing too hard for God. And so it is with us. At any stage in our lives, if God can take a blind Stevie Wonder and create a miracle out of what it is he used him for, God could take us in our own histories as we look back over our lives, the wonder years, and see how much God has done. There are some moments in which we should reflect and think about our lives and see ourselves as we would look like Ted Savage or in the new show, look back and look at our lives in the years that have passed and say, what a wonder it has been. So we share with you these words of encouragement. Know that you are supported, that you are loved, you are appreciated, and you are irreplaceable. These are the wonder years, and you are wonderful, and there's nobody quite like you. Live into your own life and know that it is the one life you're given. Love people around you, encourage them along the way in the journey, and be supported by those along the way. And as you do so, offer some words of encouragement to your friends and neighbors. Let them know they're wonderful too. Have a great morning. Have a great week. Thank you so much for tuning in. Give us your feedback, and we appreciate you until next time. Thanks.